Welcome to Beaverdale Books. November continues to be a very busy month for us, and I hope you will check our website or pick up one of our event listings so you don't miss any of the additional great authors that we're hosting, including Tina Cho on Friday, Paula Kerman on Tuesday, and Carol Rose Spalding on Wednesday. And that's just a handful of what we've got on the calendar. But tonight we are thrilled to welcome back Tom Graves with another one of his stories. Is it historical fiction? Is it contemporary fiction or something beyond? Their Times, Our Times defies easy categorization. Spanning from 1967 to 2028, this compelling narrative captures the essence of an era and the story of a generation. Through love, loss, and resilience, it's a poignant tale of two people bound by tragedy, but determined to create a future. T. Patrick Graves is a retired Central Iowa lawyer and magistrate judge who faced head and neck cancer but continues to write. This is his 5th novel. He's married, and he has 2 children and 4 grandchildren. So please join me in a very warm welcome back for Tom Graves. I think so.
We could make this short, but thank you for coming. The book, of course, is Their Times, Our Times. Did you think my 2028 prediction was pretty good?
Oh, God. I thought, be wrong.
No spoilers here, no spoilers.
Well, that's what I wondered about, was whether I'd spoil it if I mentioned it.
I was wondering what to do if he lost, but I really believe this was going to happen. The idea here came from some people I'd known who went to Vietnam, and that's all I knew. I wrote one chapter about how this guy comes back, and he wants to take care of a kid of one of the people who fought with him in Vietnam. And I didn't know if I was going to go on or not. I don't use outline. I don't know how this book was going to end. But by 5 books, probably only one I knew I was going to end when I started. I knew exactly how the first published book was going to end. Well, I knew the second book was going to end. And then I started adding the years at the end. I kind of like the years thing. I think it kind of adds something. It's hard to say, but it does add a perspective to what happened in that time period. It includes McGovern's loss, Reagan's win. 2028 is about another administration that came in, 2024. And so I've got the book here, and I could certainly read from it if I can do both. This is a kind of a what's the book's kind of about. Is his mother coming? It was Jimmy's teacher asking him. Denny realized she might have a lot more meaning in that request. Are you together? Does his mother care? I often see moms without the dad, but not vice versa. Shouldn't she be here? Sorry, Denny answered. Lisa would like to have been here, but she's an intern. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Come on.
Sit there. Here. This is fine. Okay.
Nice guy. She's an intern at U of M, and they have some kind of procedure she's tied up. I see, Mrs. Anderthorpe said, looking away from him and down into a file. Well, Jimmy is doing pretty darn well, she told me. A's and B's if we grade it that way. All of the grades were S's or U's. But we do have some social challenges, and we need to deal with them. Okay, Denny answered, wondering just what the hell she was talking about. Jimmy was a really nice young guy who would run the family, including the way he treated his younger siblings. He was really well behaved. Dennis was proud of how he took care of the little kids when they needed him. He'd seen him around friends too and wasn't concerned. First, she went on, did you know about the fight he was in? Well, no, Dennis answered. Now he wasn't worried. A fight? was about some racial. What? Dennis intervened. He went after somebody over their race? He should know better. We've made this very clear. I'm sure you have, the teacher continued. I'm sure. You know, we only have a couple of black kids in the school, right? One of them in my class, young Jeremy. All right. And one of the other kids called him by the N-word. Christ, Denny answered. So we were proud that Jimmy resisted that. He didn't want that to happen. But he should have attacked the other boy for doing it. Denny sat back. What would Lisa say now? Well, what's the other thing, he finally asked. Well, she started, we don't know what to make of this. Go on. He told the class his daddy was dead. Denny smiled. He almost snickered then. I wish he'd say his first daddy. Mrs. Angerthorpe looked down. Actually, that may have been what he said. Well, we're all going to have to live with Vietnam for a long time. And I guess Jimmy will forever. I hope he likes his second daddy, though. I sure love him. Oh, she said, Vietnam, huh? That whole thing was a real waste, wasn't it? Too bad his daddy even went. It's too bad any of us went, Denny said. They both paused a moment. Now back to Jimmy, Dennis thought. How about his studies? Can we get into that? So it starts in '66. It starts when he comes back from Vietnam. They move up to the University of South Dakota, Vermillion. Somebody here knows about that. And from there on to Minnesota and end up in Rapid City. I did that for a perverse, strange reason. I was thinking of moving him to Des Moines. I was thinking of having him live in Sioux Falls. I wanted the guy who's the lead character in this book to represent the guy who ran the cult in book 2 of my series, Menace to the Community. And so that's why I did it. It's kind of different, isn't it, to choose it on that basis. But anyway, they're in Rapid City. She's a doctor, he's a lawyer. Things happen. And the whole world happens. They have a lot of kids, they have a lot of trauma, but things move on in life as they do. And I predicted the winner of the 2024 election. Unfortunately, I got it right. And then, at one point I put in years. And the years tell us what happened at that time a little bit, not always. I'll just read you 1990. I'm Maurice Williams, remember me? Dennis paused, keeping his office phone against his car while he sipped his coffee. The day had hardly begun and he was due in court, but still. Yes, Mr. Williams, it was your nephew, right? Who I represented? Yeah, Wally, you did good. I found out as a criminal defense lawyer, if you win, you did good. If you lose, it's your fault. No, I mean, defendants are really... Although once in a while, at the end of a trial, a defendant would say to me, well, I did it, so I suppose that's... I always loved it when I was taking depositions and the defendant was sitting next to me and something would be said. And the court reporter herself would go, oh, come on.
I just thought it.
Maybe never did. Maybe never did it. Well, she's in the book, though.
Ah.
Thank you. What can I do for you? You know, we had scheduled an appointment to talk, right? Yeah, it ain't about this. Need your advice on something else. You understand my advice I give on civil matter would not be any advice from this office, correct? Yeah. I'm in Rapid. Can I see you? At lunchtime, Denny found the old rancher owner already seated at a table at Mulligan's. They shook hands and ordered, then Maurice started in. You know about Sue? Denny thought, should he? Can't really say I do. Might be the most complete T-Rex skeleton ever found on my land. Who by? The Black Hills Institute, I guess, but some woman named Sue gets the credit. Okay, Dennis said, what's the issue? I think it's mine. I think I own it. It was on my land. This is where Dennis had to be careful. You could be right, Maurice, but I don't practice that kind of law. Can I give you a name? Geez, at least tell me what you think. I think it's yours, but you'll need a lawyer. How much is it worth? Maurice smirked and used his right arm to touch Dennis's shoulder. Millions, he said. Millions. I don't know if anybody else remembers Sue.
Now
It
that you
was a big
say,
lawsuit,
yeah.
and the guy who owned the land got millions. It was for a long time. It was sitting in Hill City, and now it's where Chicago.
It's in Chicago.
What is it? Natural History Museum.
Yeah. So,
Anyway, that's 1990.
So did they pay for it?
yeah, I think they had to pay for it.
Oh yeah, millions.
I mean,
Well,
the Chicago Museum.
Somebody paid. for
Somebody paid
Yeah.
for it.
When you take something like that to the Chicago Institute, it's often contributed by someone, and I think it says below Sue,
Who?
provided by such
Paid.
and such a rich person. So I hope if you've read the book you liked it. If you haven't, I hope you will. I was wondering a couple of things. Now, has anybody read it? What do you think?
It covered a lot of ground. I like that. I thought you did a good job of touching on a lot of important things, some of which happened at a specific time, some of which, like sexism, go on and on and on and on. So I enjoyed that. It took me back. You know, I remember those things and think about where I was then and what my attitudes were. I like the strong relationship. I like the strong relationship between Dennis and Lisa.
Well,
I
I
like
had to
that.
finally have one book where marriage lasted, didn't I?
I thought you did a good job of that it developed very slowly. You know, they said, okay, we'll live together. I know you made this promise to my husband, but don't know if it'll go anywhere beyond that. And I was glad that it did.
Oh, good. Because when I started writing it, I wasn't sure either what was going to happen. I kind of thought at one point it'd be an interesting book if they didn't. And you try to stay in Jimmy's life anyway, but I like this version better.
I did too.
One of my high school classmates, Eileen Burke, just read it, and she sent me a picture of her crying.
Really?
And she said the book made me cry, and I said, I didn't know it was that bad.
I got a little tear jerked at the end, and then I read, and actually your acknowledgments got to me too.
Oh.
Read them. I like that you. I always read that stuff.
That's a big version.
Yeah, that was the first. That was the
I
first one to come
dedicated
out.
this book to my older brother, who I lost when I was very young. And it kind of fits in the book. Oh, I love my brother Jim. Losing Jim when he was 14 and I was 11 was probably the worst day of my life. I don't want to read that part. Thanks to those who served in Vietnam, I did not. That pitiful and useless war could not be forgiven, nor the men and women who sacrificed to serve in it, one of whom's here tonight. Thanks to those who served in any combat and came back and lived their lives, especially my dad, who flew B-17 missions over Europe. Thanks for Eileen for proofing, and Larry Keck and Dale Birch for their input on Vietnam. Thanks to Paul McCartney for one of the finest lyrics ever written, even if Lisa realized it wasn't right. So I didn't name it after a Beatles song for once, but I still brought it in.
I like that.
So my question is, should I write another, or should I quit? Go ahead.
Speculative fiction. You find speculative fiction in the science fiction section, but it's
Pass
just
it down,
people imagining.
Pass them out, Lee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was multi-page. All right. No, sorry. Here we go. Here.
Need more?
Yeah, one more. Get some more.
Oh, okay. There's one in here. Let me find it.
Here, you got this one.
Yep, there it is.
Thanks.
One,
So,
2, 3,
this is the
4.
books I've considered writing. About 4 brothers, all adults, when their father dies. Although actually let's make it interesting. And I've seen this in my stepfather brother shows up they didn't even know existed. Once part of the estate. Story of a Sioux Falls attorney trying to prevent his client from getting life in prison. A mystery novel, and this one came out of the new Johnny Mershon book. A young bride-to-be cancels her wedding after her fiancé is charged with murder, but works relentlessly to prove his innocence even after he goes to prison. Story of an alien sent to Earth to write an evaluation of humanity. That's the one Peggy wants to write with me. Story of a young man who lives in western South Dakota with his military father and mother, but ends up with his powerful grandpa in western Iowa after his mother's killed. A book of short stories. People tell me to do that. I've got more than a book full of short stories on my shelf. Not that anybody's ever published them. A book about a chess-playing priest who returns to the priesthood in a rural parish but finds he can't follow the rules. Now, if you'd like to know, that book started on a typewriter in 1974. So maybe I should abandon that book, because I did abandon it. And then James, anybody else read James? So I thought about Tom. Tom Sawyer's an adult. I can just move him one state and he can be a friend of Abe Lincoln's.
There you go. Oh.
A nonfiction book. I think about this. Injustice. What's wrong with our courts? What do you think? Anybody got a better idea for me?
Well, of course, I like the alien.
Huh?
You got a better idea than me. Go ahead.
I'd rather tell you one-on-one.
Is it spicy?
What, Peggy? Was
You want it one
of
on
course,
two,
I
huh?
like the alien sent to Earth to write the evaluation of humanity, but I do like this chess-playing priest who can't follow the rules. I like that. It makes me think of Father Brown a little bit.
From the
PBS.
show, yeah.
But the bride who cancels her wedding and works relentlessly to prove his innocence. That's interesting too.
The only difference between that and the actual event that is in that frame book by Grisham is that woman gave up on her husband as most people would, on her fiance. And he spent 20 years in prison, so she'd moved on. She was on her second marriage by the time he got out. That's the only difference. And I see these people who relentlessly work to try to help the innocent, but it usually takes a long time. 30, 20 years, yeah. And in one of the cases in frame, it's done. They prove his innocence. The courts rule accordingly 10 years after he was executed. And the day he was going to be executed, 2 weeks before, they got finally DNA evidence. That's one thing that happens in these old cases, no DNA. They got it, and it showed something very, very important about the trial and the evidence. And the governor wouldn't look at it. Governor of Texas executed him.
He murdered him.
Pardon?
He murdered him then.
Really true, isn't it? Yeah. That's the only reason in my mind. I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why you're for or against the death penalty. The only reason I've always thought it was wrong was, some innocent people go down. And then you wonder, too, better to die or spend 40 years or 50 years in prison.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody else got a thought?
I'm intrigued by this Tom Sawyer as an adult.
I am a little intrigued, too. I've always read books by other authors that follow up on Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer, and they're not Twain. They shouldn't be written, and they shouldn't be read. But James was somewhat different. James is worth reading, even if it's some of it just can't be true. And it diverts completely from Huck Finn by the end. In fact, James ends up with his family in Canada at the end. And Jim was a hero in Huck Finn, but Huck Finn was the hero too for standing up for Jim.
Yeah, it's a beautifully written book.
Pardon?
It's a beautifully written book, I think.
It is well written. Yeah. One thing about Twain, and I think he was a great writer, one of the best, but by the end of his life, people would say to him, "Where did this idea come from in Huck Finn?" And Twain would seriously say to people, "Is that one of my books?" Oh, and they'd say, "Yeah, I remember writing it." I don't remember. Although my favorite story about Huck Finn, the book, was, and I read it in James now, he wrote the book and they were setting it, and the typesetter came in and said, "Mr. Clemens." He said, "Yeah." He said, "James and Huck take the raft again." Or was it the canoe? They take the canoe and get away. And he said, "The last chapter, they lost the canoe. And now they use it again." Oh, Huck Finn goes. Twain goes. So he goes in there, he looks at the lines, he changes 3 words, and it says, "They found a canoe," and then nothing else changed. It was brilliant. Anybody else want to talk about whether I should write anything again? Karen, do you have an opinion? Should I ever write again?
Well, that I think, yeah, that's totally up to you. I mean, you know.
And it gets me out of her.
I think the aliens sent to Earth to write an evaluation of humanity would be biting off a
It
big.
would be a lot of research.
Oh
Why would
boy!
it be research? You just make it up.
No, because
But the
I want
humanity.
her to accurately relay back to
Yeah.
the other world. She's relaying back about humans, so I'd have to research. I think I could just pick up Bill Bryson's The Body and then everything I need.
So is this humanity before or after the 2024 election?
Well, that's the twist, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't do that. I could make it after the 24 election.
Prior,
And-
before and after, yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
Before and after.
But I had some interesting ideas, like she is of a different sexual orientation, completely not a man or a woman. And
You mean the
she's
alien.
really interested in that, why men and women do that.
Well, I've read a lot of science fiction and speculative fiction, and I read about stuff, technology that I swear the author made it up, you know, to accommodate the story. That's where I come from when I say you can just create it all.
You're the author. I mean,
Well, the funny part about that is I've always read science fiction. And one day I was rereading an old Asimov book. So it happens about 2250. 2250, I think, yeah. And they're driving along, and the guy says, "Stop the car." And he stops, and he goes and uses a payphone to talk back. So Asimov couldn't predict everything, did he?
Nope.
I know I'm short, but I don't want to make you guys wait. If there's nothing else I would talk about anything you want to talk about. What do you think of that big one compared to the little ones?
Well, it's harder to put on my lap and have a cat on my lap, too. The cat kept getting mad and crawling out from under it.
How many cats do you have, babe?
I have 5, which is about 3 too many. They're all strays, you know. They were going to die, so I adopted them. So,
But do you like that one?
no,
The-
I think
The size of that one?
I think I prefer the smaller size,
Okay.
but it's fine. I mean,
What's the
size
story
of a
on the
book
2
isn't gonna stop me
sizes?
from reading it.
All right.
What's the story on the 2 sizes?
You got me.
Oh,
The book was available. Amazon was the publisher this time, so that made it different. The book was available finally, and so I ordered one to California because we were going out to give my daughter. It comes to that. They go, "What?" And so I call them and go kind of complain to them, and they came out with this one instead. But Peggy got that one. Mary James got that one.
Yeah.
So we liked it.
The
so-
first edition. You got the first
Yes,
edition.
first edition.
no.
Rare appreciate it.
That's what I said earlier.
Yeah, I don't think they're available anymore. They had 5
The
copies
price
left
has
to
probably
sell.
gone up on that one.
You want that one?
No, I said the price has probably gone up on
Yeah,
that one.
collector's item.
Collector's items out of print.
Well, I'll send you. I got a copy. It's $300.
Okay. It'll be an investment.
Well, I will have to remove the rest of your books because they're in a bookshelf. This doesn't fit it. So, but I have one that'll fit.
That's what's kind of funny that they don't fit.
Yeah, it's true. It's. You maybe should give Peggy a regular size.
No,
one.
that's what. No, this. I'm gonna keep this.
It's special.
It's mine. It's autographed.
Since you should ask Peggy, since she's read your books, all of your books, I believe. Which one is her? Does she think she liked
that's
the
a good
best?
question.
I think I mentioned that last time. This time it's probably a tie between this and I'm awful with remembering titles. The one that took place here in Des Moines.
Well, let us talk policy now.
Yes.
The first one.
Uh-huh.
I really liked it. And I think it stuck with me because if I just looked at it on a table at the bookstore, it wouldn't have been subject matter that would have drawn me. But since you wrote it, I read it and I liked it. So that opens my mind a little more too.
That's kind of a haunting story.
Yeah,
It just kind of, yeah.
I
yeah.
was telling myself tonight which is my favorite book. And I can't figure out whether it's Talk Falsely or the new one. Sometimes after I finish a book, I think, oh, that's the best thing I wrote, and then after a while I realize it wasn't.
Talk Falsely creeped me out because it was placed in Urbandale and Beaverdale, and I knew where these places were, and here's all this bad stuff.
Well, tell him now about you had to get a piece of paper and write down all the names of who's was in there so she could keep everybody straight.
Which book?
I can't
Yep.
remember. It was one of
I
those.
have to do that too.
Do ya?
I forget
Bless your
names.
heart.
I
Even
do.
if
I
even
have
if
a list going.
even if you just invented that, bless your heart for
No,
telling me
it's
that.
My husband was here. I'll get done with the book. We usually read a lot of the same books. And I'll say, no, look, I have this. It helped me. Should I just get rid of it? No, leave it in there, he says. So it helps him too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is a good idea. Book one, I just wrote it. And after going back and seeing that I changed characters' names, now when I write a book, I start with keeping a list who the characters are.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for a while I could remember who the mother was in Lonely People, who the one person's characters. Lisa, in this one actually, Lisa's mother. I had two different names now, so I had to go back and fix it. Luckily, Word does that now.
Yeah. Say, I think you promised that there was going to be a bookstore in this book, wasn't there?
Oh, you have to write another book.
Oh, it was in the
Long
Long May
May
You Run. That's right.
No, it was in Long May They Run.
Yeah.
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 It was Beaverdale.
But it
Books,
wasn't-
I didn't want to get sued,
wasn't
so I
called
called it Neighborhood
Beaverdale
Books.
Books.
Wow. Urbandale books.
Yeah, that was kind of I like that, writing about it, whether or not I did the writer well or not.
I remember one author telling me that he kept track of his characters with Post-it notes. He had a wall and he would put all the important details on Post-it notes, dates and things.
And nobody ever came and took them all.
Well, I don't think so. That could be, yeah.
I never tried that. I'm used to using a legal pad, and I use a legal pad for virtually everything. So.
And then we had one author here recently who uses Scrivener, a program called Scrivener. And he said he keeps all of his characters off to the side.
And that is lately the thing that I'm hearing from people like me.
Uh-huh.
Who use Scrivener to write their books.
Yep.
It never changed from Word.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with it, but it did sound like a good program. So.
Yeah.
So on this list, I think you say you're interested in Tom Sawyer as an adult. What others
Which one?
are you most interested
Am I
in?
interested in?
Yes.
All of these, some of these I've started. Four Brothers, I wrote about 6 chapters of.
Is that your
Sioux
family?
Falls Attorney, I'm 100 pages in.
Okay.
Mystery novel I just came up with just today, really yesterday. The Alien, I think I sent you the first chapter of that book.
And I've never admitted to anybody I had it or told anyone I had it. Yes.
I want to see it.
The story of a young man who lives in western South Dakota. I've written that book for 30 years. Literally written parts of it over and over again. A book of short stories, I'd have to go choose a bunch of my short stories. I've never started the Tom Sawyer one. James gave me the idea. The Injustice would take some real work. And then I kind of wonder, there are more expert people than me. You know, people with more time spent in the system.
Well, you've been in it for years.
Yeah, but
You know, you're entitled to an opinion.
and there's people who are professors, you know.
How about your chest playing priest?
Yeah, I like that one too.
Pardon?
Just paying.
How about the chess playing priest?
I love that book.
Is that when you said you started?
I started in about 74, yeah.
Well, get back to it.
But now with all the scandal in the Catholic Church, would you have to take that into account?
Not if I said it when I originally said it.
Okay.
But I think maybe I would, because I think maybe I'd bring it forward. It's a complicated story, because the only chess he's playing now, because he's working as a priest, is a ghost who tells him, if I beat you, you're dead.
Huh. That's
And then-
good. I like that.
And then he tries to help a young woman who's domestically abused, and he lets them live with him in the house that the priests have. And of course the church won't put up with that, and some of the parishioners won't put up. Other of the parishioners love him because he's different. I don't know how to write it. Mary, you can write it.
No. No.
Well, all the above, I guess.
Oh, they love it.
Yeah. Just keep on writing.
That's naive. I think he knows better. Well, I do tell you this about writing books. Nobody buys them, nobody reads them, but a couple of friends and people we know, and I always enjoy it. I hear from Eileen, she loves my book. Jerry Fox Homan tells me how great my book is. That's nice, and I really do appreciate that. But it's something to do. It's something worthwhile, at least somewhat worthwhile to do now. And I was real naive. I thought when I write my first book, oh, it'll, no.
Big seller.
No. So,
I admire you for just the fact that you write those books.
Absolutely.
well,
Because everybody many people talk about writing a book. I've talked about it, but I'm too busy reading books. And so I really admire someone who actually does that.
not quite sure why I do now, because I didn't used to. And I think part of it is that, I can now. I mean, when you're practicing law, you're so darn busy. Often was working Saturdays and Sundays and evening,
Yeah.
Maybe that's why, but I also think it's the iPad. I love writing on the iPad. So,
So when you say you use a legal pad, is that for the ideas that you then write the book on an iPad?
no, seriously, the only thing that goes on that is the characters.
Oh, okay.
Or I will write down chapter 1, such and such, because I'll be coming back to it eventually. I'll do that kind of thing. But really, the whole book is on the iPad. I remember when I first started writing the book, I was using my electric typewriter that my parents gave me as a high school graduation present. And somebody told me, People don't write books in typewriter. You have to write it out.
Oh God.
You might see me now.
I have 2 IBM Selectrics. Both of them are busted. I haven't gotten rid of them yet because I just
Okay, fantastic.
They were.
typewriter
Great.
ever.
They were great.
Plus, one
typewriters.
has a half space thing, where if you're proofing a transcript, with like a letter out up here, you can squeeze it in instead of having to retype the whole page.
Peggy was one of the good, really good court clerks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I mean,
I tried.
I still read some of your transcripts some days, some of the depositions I took, and I go, I know I talk too fast.
You were
But how
one of
did
the
you get it all down?
You were one of the few, though, that when I would say you need to slow down, would actually try to slow down for a while. It's really hard for people to change their speech pattern.
Yeah.
Very difficult. And I would tell people that. I know this is going to be difficult, but I want to get everything you say. And I bet you want me to get everything you say. So I'm going to ask you to slow down sometimes or repeat.
Alrighty,
Thank
let's
you.
hear it.
You.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Right on.
Well, I need